one's not dropped. I said, we got a hot line here. So we
Yep.
walked all the way through the woods, end of the road. Yeah, looks like a hot line. Called it in. They're like, are you sure it's a hot line? Yeah. Well, there's a tree laying across it. Fuse didn't drop. They worked for like 24 hours. Set 2 poles, pulled all the lines again. What a mess.
Jeez.
All right, well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we have 5. So I will proceed. It being the evening of August 12th at 6:59, I'll call the meeting of the Conservation Commission to order and pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. No in-person attendance members of the public will be permitted at this meeting. We will participate in the meeting remotely. This meeting will be accessible to the public via Zoom. There are informations and instructions at the town website, bellinghamma.org. Okay, first item is a really simple one. I'm going to dispense with the reading of the advertisement because the reading of the advertisement will take longer than it will to conduct our business on this. This is for 32 Candlelight Lane, Lot 40. If everyone will recall at the last meeting, the only reason this one was continued is because the plan of record showed 2 Lot 40s. Tom Libby recognized the mistake and has submitted a revised plan showing only 1 Lot 40. The order is prepared. The work has been done on this, so I will entertain a motion to close this hearing and issue and sign the order of conditions.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Yes, you may. We have piles and piles and piles of paperwork here. All right, so.
Do we want to earmark time to go down to town hall and sign that tomorrow, or is that something that requires?
We have so much stuff to sign. I would love to be able to earmark time to do that.
Yeah.
Mike and Neil have signed some of it.
Okay.
We need 4 signatures.
Okay.
If we could get people to do that, it would just be awesome.
Yes.
Are you going to be there tomorrow, Ann, at town hall?
Oh,
or-
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll swing by. What time works for you?
Well, I don't know.
She's got nowhere else to go.
Maybe
Would 11 o'clock work for you?
11?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
She's
All right.
going to get out of this, Hades.
Right. You're going to sit in central air.
Yeah, right.
Okay, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Mass Protection Act, General Law, hold on. The Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the notice of intent for the proposed tree removal and pruning within BVW and within the associated buffer zone setbacks located on an existing solar-powered electric generated facility, Assessors Map 13, lots 3 and 4, 316 Hartford Avenue, Bellingham. The project proposes 14,700 square feet of impacts to bordering vegetated wetlands and 30,420 square feet of impacts to buffer zone located within 30 feet of the resource area. David Callahan, Cock Associates, Marlboro, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Joey Pellegrino. Springfield, Mass. The continuations will be held at the meeting of August 12th at 7 o'clock. I think we all remember working on this project. This was not met with a lot of friendliness. The project was filed, the permit was issued, the no disturb zone was established, and subsequent to that, the applicant decided they could maximize the benefit of the sun by cutting down a boatload more trees. We directed them back in February 26th to, there was a list of things we asked them to do. They've requested a continuation. They just requested another continuation. Our administrator talked to town council. We had a viable option, which was to close the hearing, issue a denial based on the applicant's unwillingness or inability to provide requested information, which is a slam dunk denial. But our administrator also is a gentle person. So she contacted the applicant and said, look, I have it on good authority that some members of the commission are not happy about another continuation. So I'm going to offer you the opportunity to withdraw your notice of intent without prejudice. I thought that was very charitable of her. And half hour ago, we got an email from the applicant requesting that they withdraw without prejudice the application to alter 40,000 square feet of resource area. So I will entertain a motion to grant the withdrawal of the notice of intent without prejudice.
So moved.
Mary Ann,
Second.
Sean, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote, the project is withdrawn. So we have a moment, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the rain gardens at Lakeview Estates. Now, most of us have been out in the field and saw areas where rain gardens were supposed to be installed, but were not installed. We also saw where groundwater was breaking out and creating a situation where we had constant water flow and the wetlands were expanding. And the applicant indicated that it would be very difficult for them to establish rain gardens due to the steep slopes and between the topography and the existing conditions with, constant water, it would be difficult to get rain gardens to be viable. So we suggested that the applicant be creative and come up with an alternative plan that might be permissible. Now, our administrator sent out to everyone a proposed plan. And the plan is, and I hope everyone had an opportunity to look at it. If you didn't have an opportunity to look at it, on the open space in that area are 2 isolated vegetated wetlands. What the applicant is proposing is to excavate, bring in soil, and hydrologically connect the 2 areas of isolated vegetated wetlands. They talked to the administrator and myself and asked if we thought it would be permissible, and it's something that we would like in exchange for not putting in rain gardens on the individual lots. We thought that it had quite a bit of merit. We asked them to develop a preliminary plan. They talked to Arthur Allen at Ecotech. He developed a basic protocol. I think the administrator and I strongly recommend that we allow this. It's thinking outside the box. It's very creative. We've had a lot of success dealing with Ecotech and Arthur Allen on these kinds of projects. And it would, I think, provide substantially more benefit from an ecological sense than having individual rain gardens put in on lots that are already built. So I know that they're looking for some guidance from us as to whether or not it might be permittable before they file the notice of intent.
Brian was out there.
Brian was out there. He wasn't with us when we conducted the visit, but we went over the plan set. Brian, anything to add?
Can't hear you, Brian.
Unmute, yeah.
It's okay. All right.
Okay, so we're getting that. So he thinks it's a great idea. Now, we don't need a vote on this. I just need some kind of consensus so that we can report back to Gary and Helen that, you know, we want to proceed with this strategy.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's a slam dunk. They've, you know, definitely upgraded both wetland areas by doing that. So I think it's perfect. It's way better than a rain garden, personally.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, good. You know, I think this is exactly what we requested the applicant to do. Think outside the box, be creative, come up with something, because none of us are happy with the way things are working out on Lakeview Estates. And here's an opportunity to correct some of the errors that occurred in the past. And I think that they've done everything we've asked them to do. That doesn't mean that we're exempting them from their duties and responsibilities of filing a notice of intent. But I think that what we can indicate to Gary and Helen is that, fine, in terms of concept, we think it's viable. File a notice of intent, and we'll conduct our standard review. Probably make a few corrections here or there, and then maybe they'll eliminate that requirement from their lots that they failed to provide the rain gardens for.
How many lots did they fail to provide rain gardens for?
They have 6 lots that they failed to provide, and 3 lots where they installed them, and for various reasons they have failed.
Okay.
Okay. So it's 9 lots. I believe now, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think we're looking at 4,400 square feet of wetland creation and 38 of rain garden.
Okay.
So there is a small net gain, but I think the ecological benefit is substantial.
Agreed.
Well, can you give us a thumbs up?
Yes, I like it.
Okay. All right. The only one we haven't heard from is Ariane.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'll instruct the administrator will contact you and Helen and ask them to proceed.
Look, we have Mike, he was raising his hand for some reason.
Mike, oh, I see Mike O'Haron, but I don't.
I was just voting.
Oh, Mike, where's your face?
Sorry, I was just voting.
Oh, I see
Where's
the
my
M
face?
there.
I'm on the phone. Can you hear me?
Okay,
Yes, we can hear you.
we can see a big red M, and I thought that meant Matthews.
Okay, so Mike,
Of
you're
course
good
you
with
did.
it.
No, I'm on the phone. Yes, I'm good with it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm off site. So I'm on my phone. So I'm just
Okay.
Thank you.
doing what I can to get a little Wi-Fi signal. Okay.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
In that case, like I said, we'll instruct you and Helen to proceed with filing a notice of intent in anticipation of being able to execute their responsibility. Okay. New hearing. I see Chris Wagner's here. He looks like a Borg there with his little.
No, that's on the eye.
Oh, it's on the eyes. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the notice of intent for the proposed roadway improvements along approximately 1/3 of a mile of Mechanic Street, the construction of approximately 300-foot long new subdivision road for Lincoln Business Park, Mechanic Street, Bellingham. Portions of the project are located within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and bank, and the project will include mitigation measures in kind replacement of vegetation removed from the buffer zone in accordance with the local bylaw. Chris Wagner, VHB, Walnut Street, Watertown, has submitted the filing on behalf of John Capilano, Lincoln Property. State Street, Boston, The hearings will be held via Zoom online at 7:15, sorry, 7:15 at August 12th, Wednesday, August 12th. Hello, Mr. Vice Chairman. Okay. Chris Wagner.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Good evening. Thanks you for having us here. It's a little different circumstances than normal, but hopefully everyone's getting used to it by now. As mentioned, we're here to talk about the Mechanic Street widening project, and I'm here with Margot Schoenfelder, who's one of the transportation project engineers who did a lot of the design on the project, and Tori Brown as well, who worked on the actual filing and the notice and did the majority of the field work with me to identify the areas and come up with the replication plan that we've discussed with you already. And so I'm going to turn it over to them. They have a presentation, a few slides to present to everyone, and then we can take questions from the commission afterwards.
Great. I did notice that screen sharing was disabled. Is there?
Yep. Margo, are you going to be the one presenting?
Yes.
Okay. We'll give you those permissions. Just one second.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. Okay, everyone can see that?
We can.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, thank you for hearing us today. We're here to talk about the Mechanic Street roadway improvements, as Chris mentioned. So you've already met Chris. My name is Margot Schoenfelder. I'm the project manager for the roadway improvements, and Tori Brown is also going to be speaking. Okay. Okay. So I'll just give a brief background about the project and the current status. So the roadway improvements are being constructed as off-site mitigation for a new warehouse building at approximately 160 Mechanic Street. It's approximately 700 linear feet of widening along Mechanic Street for a new left turn lane going into a new access road to the warehouse. We're also constructing approximately 1,500 linear feet of new sidewalk along the road, connecting two segments of existing sidewalk. And then a new subdivision roadway to provide access to the warehouse. In terms of drainage improvements, because we are adding a sidewalk, we're proposing curb on the northern side of the roadway. So we are proposing a new closed drainage system. Currently the drainage is country drainage. We are proposing 2 new detention basins along Mechanic Street at the 2 outfalls. They are including sediment 4 bays and also the detention basin before entering the adjacent wetland. I'll share a plan after this slide to kind of go through both of those locations. At Curtis Pond, we are proposing a new discharge point, but it's really replacing the existing discharge point because DOT noted that the 2 current outfall pipes are failing. There is a slight increase in the impervious area due to the roadway widening, but at each design point, the peak rates are either matched or reduced. And as we'll go through the plan, we're proposing trees and shrubs along the roadway and along a site basin in accordance with the town bylaw. And Mass DOT did provide us with an at-risk access permit to begin construction. So the contractor is gearing up, but obviously we won't be doing anything within the buffer until we receive an order of conditions. And at this point, I will bring up a plan view. feel free to stop me at any point with questions. So this is a general overview of the project. This is the area of Mechanic Street that we're widening due to this left turn lane going into the access road to the warehouse. The first drainage basin, detention basin that we're proposing is on the northwest corner of the intersection. We are proposing to pipe water from both the northern and southern sides of the roadway into this basin where it goes into the sediment forebay and then stays in here. And then there's another catch basin that goes across the street again to Curtis Pond. This is where we're proposing a new head wall and stone for pipe end. And then on the eastern end of the project, well, past the intersection, you can see we're proposing a few new catch basins and a closed drainage system that go to the existing low point on the roadway. And we are proposing to propose this detention basin with another sediment forebay, which then exits into the wetland. And you can see that there are shrubs proposed along the basin as well. I'll note that all of the proposed catch basins are deep sump structures, so we believe the design represents an improvement over the existing conditions, which the water from the roadway goes largely untreated into the wetlands. And at that point, I will turn it over to Tori to go over our mitigation.
So just to give an overview of the wetlands we're looking at, I put in a couple photos so you can see what we're talking about. This is wetland 1, which is Curtis Pond. So the bottom photo is showing where the existing head wall is. It's kind of cut off at the bottom, but it's mostly buried and it's not really functioning right now. The majority of work in buffer zone is on the other side of the road from the head wall, so that's the top photo there. That's where we're putting one of the drainage basins. I'm gonna go to the next slide. This is wetland 2 over in the eastern portion of the project. That bottom photo is showing the wetland looking towards the road. It's kind of a disturbed area. There's an outfall right there, and the wetland doesn't really start until a little bit lower down. You can kind of see a pink flag. And then the top photo is showing the area where the drainage basin will be. There are a few of the trees that we're going to have to remove as part of this project in that area. Going on to the next slide. We just put together a zoom in of the wetland areas. This is Curtis Pond, wetland 1. So you can see the 25-foot buffer in blue, the 50-foot buffer in green, and then the 100-foot buffer zone in that purple red color. So most of the work at this location is on the other side of the road where that drainage basin is, and then we're improving the existing outfall to Curtis Pond. Going on to the next one. This is wetland 2 again. Pretty small area in the project vicinity. There is an intermittent stream that starts up towards kind of the northern part, but it's generally BVW. And again, we have the buffers shown. This drainage basin is coming right up against the wetland. We did our best to locate it as far as we could away from it, but just given the constraints of the site, basically we think it's better to treat the water before it's going directly into that wetland, even though we're kind of coming up right against the wetland. Going on to the next slide. So as part of this NOI, we're removing 25 trees and 105 shrubs. In addition to the typical erosion and sedimentation controls, including catch basin inlet protection for existing catch basins, erosion control barriers, and non-structural practices like sweeping and loam and seeding. We're also proposing buffer zone plantings. So we're proposing 34 new shade trees, 14 ornamental trees, and 110 new shrubs, which we'll replace on a 1-to-1 basis. And with that, I will open it up to any questions from the commission.
Okay, so we have a situation where the drainage system going into Curtis Pond, which was essentially catch basin to a direct discharge, is not properly functioning. It doesn't appear that that's a huge catchment area. Do you know offhand? I guess this is a question for Margot. How big is that catchment area for that? Because it's not a very big structure.
Yeah, I know that there's a high point on the roadway a few hundred feet to the west of this, so it was a small area that we're now capturing by these two catch basins.
Okay, you don't have that quantified though. I mean, it might be in the drainage calculations.
Sure. I can try to dig that up.
Okay, if you want to do that, then I can move on to another question.
Sure.
Okay, between that and the corrections that or the improvements that you're making to the eastern basin, do you think that this meets the standards for the MS4?
Which standards in particular are you concerned about?
Well, I mean, we know that the town of Bellingham right now is under, we've had the MS4 audit and we're looking to improve to the maximum, well, actually not the maximum extent practicable. We have standards that we have to adhere to for treatment of stormwater. Have anyone on the VHB design team considered that whether or not this meets the standards for the MS4?
Yeah, we've met them to the maximum extent practicable. The only one that is not fully met is the TSS removal, which we met as much as we can, considering we didn't want to have more impacts than necessary.
Okay, and I know our DPW director isn't here, so I'm not sure how that would affect our overall evaluation, but I know that everywhere we look, in every development that we're working on, we're trying to meet all of the applicable standards. So,
yeah.
You know, when we met with the design team back in, and Margot, I don't know, I apologize, I don't know if you were part of that meeting back in March.
Yeah.
Questions we asked, and it was like, well, no, we understand what you're asking, but DOT, it's their project, and they're not going to permit that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's maintenance intensive.
Oh yes, the pass-through structures. Yeah. Yeah, so that was our original design, and that's what we submitted to DOT for the 25%, and they flat out rejected it and said, we will not maintain this. So we tried to go with that more environmentally sensitive solution, and they said that they're requiring the closed drainage system and their standard structures. So given that constraint, we thought we did the best that we could.
So it's do as I say, not as I do. We've had dealings with DOT before. They can be onerous.
Yeah.
All right, so the next question I have is the basin that is on the Lincoln properties. It looks like you've just got one catch basin that's going to be discharging into the basin that would be to the north of where you are right now.
Yes. Yeah, let me pull it up.
There you go. Okay, so I took a look at the plans, and is it one basin? No, two catch basins actually, right?
Yeah, so this is the emergency overflow catch basin. This is the main overflow.
But that overflow is at base elevation for the basin. So you're going to be taking, and that pipe is, that's a 40-inch pipe. That pipe right there is a 40-inch pipe. That's a huge pipe. So my question is that volume of water part of the calculations, because that's going to one of your infiltration units next to the warehouse. And I don't recall that volume of water being in the calculations for that infiltration. So we're going to need you to check that to make sure that that was included, because if it isn't, that's a substantial water, unless I misread the plans.
Sure.
And if you have those plans, you could
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't recall it being 40 inches.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And it's at the base elevation of the basin. So what you're doing is you're going to be channeling an enormous amount of water into your infiltrators, and we need to make sure that infiltrators can accommodate that volume.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pulling up the plans now so we can check that pipe size.
Okay. Certainly. The other question,
Yeah, I have it as a 40-foot long.
40-foot long, 12. I gotta tell you, when I'm reading plans on PDF files on my computer, it's a PIT. My mistake. Okay, so it's 12-inch, not 40-inch.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little bit more consoled.
Great.
Are you still concerned?
But I'm concerned, but because it's at the base elevation. So if you could just calculate or check to make sure that that volume was accommodated.
Sure.
Just answer that question.
Absolutely.
Okay, next question is relatively simple. This work may require some excavation. I don't know how much fill is going to be required. Do you have designated stockpile areas? Didn't see any on the plans. I imagine you're going to be using something on the Lincoln site if you need it.
Yeah, perhaps, John, do you know if there's an area designated on the warehouse site? We certainly did not expect any to be within the state highway layout on Mechanic Street.
Okay, well, that'll keep it out of the buffer zone.
Yeah.
That's our concern. But what happens is and I don't know what the stage of construction is now for that basin, but I want to make sure that we don't have a situation where we can have silt entering the basin, because now we have a situation where we have to excavate to approved base levels to make sure that we have the storage capacity that we permitted.
Yep, understood.
Okay. Let's see. Question for Tori. Tori, to date, we have not received the DEP file number. And I know everybody's anxious to get this thing moving.
We
and
did.
I'm not,
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
go ahead. I mean,
We did receive a file number this afternoon, right under the gun. And there were several comments on it, including on adding this subdivision parcel to the WPA form, which we have addressed, and we can provide you the new form. I can go back and look at what the other comments were, but we did receive a file number today.
okay, we can't issue a permit without a file number.
With number, okay.
Okay, and so I imagine that Ian will have an email.
And yes, I was just going to say, Ann, you were copied on that email, so you should have that file number as well. But if you need it, I can also just give it to you.
Even though we work on Saturdays and Sundays and late, sometimes we don't check our computers 24 hours a day, so we get it.
So Tori, as you respond to those comments, would you just copy me on them?
And we have, Margo can maybe speak to some of the other ones, but we have kind of addressed most of the comments already. I can pull them up again.
So however you have addressed those, just copy me on them.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, normally what we do is we require a written response to the DEP comments, just so it can be part of the record.
Well, let's see what they are.
Well, I mean, we don't even see what they are yet, right? But they're going to respond, so we'll get that. Those are my questions. Okay. Commission, do we have any questions?
I have a couple.
That would be Mike.
Can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
hear
Yeah,
you.
Mike has a couple. Okay, so if you could go back to the plan you just were at with the entrance and the green areas marked.
Yep.
And could you zoom in a little?
The
There you go.
intersection.
Right. Yeah, the intersection. Okay, good. Yeah, so to the left of the entrance to the warehouse, the narrow oval shape, which is going to be a new detention basin,
Yeah.
about on the right corner of that basin, there's a small mark. Is that showing an existing drainage catchment device structure? Because there is one buried, semi-buried in the ground right now in that area. I couldn't say it's right at that spot. No, to the left a little bit more. Okay, right there, right where your cursor was. On the left of your cursor, a little more. Yeah, right there. So is that showing an existing structure or a proposed one?
This is a proposed structure. I don't remember there being any existing structure here.
What is the black object to your right on the mouse there, right at the edge of the sidewalk, proposed sidewalk?
This?
Yeah, is that an existing structure?
No, this is we're installing traffic conduit. Even though,
So there is a small, again, small only because I think it's buried under debris, but it's in a low, very low area just past the entrance of the ramp. I bike by it all the time. And
okay.
I wondered whether that was going to be tied into, and if that was part of the old failing drainage into Curtis Pond.
Right. So actually, now that I'm looking, this dashed line here is one of the outfall pipes. And even though it doesn't look like we're showing that structure, but the pipe, from that structure is one of the pipes that's being removed.
All right. So what is being done to treat this stuff that's going to go from this detention basin that's being created across the street into Curtis Pond? Oils and other runoff salts and so forth.
Yep, so both of these catch basins being proposed in the roadway will be deep sump. So we have some treatment there. Then once we get into the basin, we have this sediment forebay before the water overtops that and goes into the detention basin.
All right. So the elevation of the sidewalk to the bottom of the detention basin is what?
So these are, let me see. I think this basin is 2 feet deep, but I can get you the exact grade difference.
Okay, maybe I'd address it a little differently. From the sidewalk, if you're standing on this new sidewalk, right where your cursor is, you would be looking over and down into this detention basin, correct? Yeah. You're not changing the topography at all, really?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So what's to keep something from running closer to the entrance of the warehouse into the facility from the street and the sidewalk? Into that end of the basin where it's not going to be treated? Because the outflow is right there, correct? Across to Curtis Pond.
Yes. Well, so it currently, this will be a deep sump, and that's the current.
That is also, okay, I want to make sure that you were down at the other end of the basin.
Yeah, any catch basins in the project area will be deep sump.
Okay. The length of the sidewalk in your initial, the beginning of the presentation was 1,500 feet of sidewalk. Is that a change from the original proposal for the project? Maybe Jim remembers better, but I thought it was 1,000 feet originally. I was wondering if they extended the sidewalk further down towards Bellingham or towards Franklin in either direction, because it was going to tie in at one end, but not at the other.
It's not tying in at both ends, yeah. Sorry.
It is, so it's going all the way up to the top of the next rise where the warehouse for the paper company is.
So during the planning board process, the requirement was correct, Mike, 1,000 feet to the Lindenmeyer Paper Company to unite with the existing sidewalk. My understanding, and Margot could talk, and Tori probably could talk more, but DOT is now requiring the extension going the other way. So where we're looking at now on the screen towards Blackstone Street to make that connection over there. So it's a really nice extension of sidewalk there.
Yeah, that's good. It's tying in both ends. The widening of the street right there by Curtis Pond, is it being taken from the, I'm gonna say the top, because I think that's northern, actually. I know the road runs east-west right at that spot, because I always bike into the sun at that point in time in the morning. So the top side of the street, is it being taken from that side? It's not going closer towards Curtis Pond in the widening, is it? Because you're right at the edge of the top of the slope there.
Yeah, we are.
Currently.
Yeah, we are splitting the difference. We went as far north as we could while keeping the limit of work off of private property. But what we ended up doing to avoid catching that slope down to Curtis Pond is we're proposing a type of guardrail that doesn't require a level landing behind it. So right after the curb, we begin our 2-to-1 slope down to existing ground.
Okay, and it's going to be a
Yeah,
regular
Mike,
curb to keep overflow from going down into the Curtis Pond on that side of the road?
6-inch reveal.
6-inch, okay.
So
And-
one thing I wanted to point out, Mike, it's really interesting. We noticed this in the preliminary meeting in March. The layout of the road is really funky. If you look to the north, the black line just under the 100-foot buffer zone line, that's the right of way. Yeah, right there. That's the right of way. So when we had the same concerns, but they expanded in the existing right of way without having to take private property. For the life of me, I don't understand why it would be the right of way was expanded at that point, but there it is. That's the layout.
Uh-huh. So I'm just still trying to picture on the eastbound side of the road there.
Mhm.
So the existing guardrail has a little bit of level, like a few inches beyond the actual edge of the metal before it drops off. You're saying you're putting a different type of guardrail that basically doesn't need that. It sort of attaches to the curbing.
It's the posts go much deeper, so the level area behind them isn't required to prevent the post from failing if a vehicle hits it. So right at the, yeah. Go ahead.
Good. Yeah. So what keeps the slope from eroding on the back side of the new curbing when you're now going right up to the very, very, very edge to, as you said, split the difference?
I mean, we're using a 2-to-1 slope, which we always consider to be stable and non-erosive.
You're going to have to grade along the edge of that though, correct? You're going to disturb the area right at the top of the slope to do the railings and put the new posts in and everything else. My point is, what's to keep it from basically everything from sliding down into there? Are you putting stabilization materials on top of this afterwards? Because it doesn't seem like you have the room.
The existing slope you're concerned about?
Yeah. So you're going to work on the top of the existing slope to do the new guardrails, to put the curbing in, et cetera, et cetera. My concern is protecting Curtis Pond during the construction, and then what will stabilize the top of that very steep slope that has almost no lip now before it drops off to even less lip in the future to keep erosion and so forth from just that whatever hits that side of the top of the slope doesn't land in the road and get kept in by the curbing, but in fact is on the outside of the curbing.
Well, our intention is certainly for the contractor to not go beyond our erosion control. And I can show you some example of cross sections. So we're actually able to tie in within the shelf next to the roadway, and we're not tying into the steep slope. So we did not believe that the contractor is going to be, aside from the new outfall, which, will be stabilized, they won't be disturbing it.
Okay. How much was the road widened in that section compared to what the exact width is now? I think it's 22 feet now or something like that I saw.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up the plan so we can get a better idea.
We have to move along. I have one more question after this.
Let me see. So that's 20 feet. It looks like it's a little bit more than 5 feet.
On one lane or 5 feet overall?
In both directions.
You need 5 feet on each side of the middle of the road. So 10 feet, 10 and a half feet total?
Yep. So,
Okay.
I mean, we're adding another travel lane, so.
Yeah. Okay. One last question. I know we're going to move along. The entrance, the detention basin, detention, not infiltration basin, correct? The right of the entrance, that's not looking for any infiltration, correct? Because it looks like they blasted into a bowl of stone is what it looks like to me as I go by it. I haven't gone down and walked around in it or anything like that, but not that one, the other one to the right.
This.
Yeah, that area there is all stone right now looking. And again, I haven't walked around. You're not proposing any infiltration through that. I raised that during our initial hearing. It looked like they're going to blast down into the stone. I said, well, how are you going to be sure you're going to be able to infiltrate anything? I thought they were talking about taking infiltration in that area. Is that still proposed?
No, we're not counting infiltration in this basin. And we certainly have gotten the feedback from the contractors on site that it is all ledge. And we've accommodated, we've tailored the plantings around it, considering that in mind.
Okay, so the shelf area to the right of that that's got vehicles parked on it right now and is a flattened area of stone with the stone riprap kind of facing towards Franklin, is that what's in green there also? I'm just trying to picture that building to the right that is shown in outline form. That's Antron, isn't it?
Well, that's the house that was torn down, isn't it?
Oh, that is the house. Okay, I couldn't read any of it from the, I'm looking at my phone and I did look at the plans before. Okay, so Antron's to the right of that. Okay, so yeah, that area there is all just a flattened, and I was told, I think Jim mentioned this at the last meeting, we talked about this, that's not part of the Lincoln project? That's some other project?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, because I was gonna make sure that we're planning on doing. So landscaping isn't gonna go over into that area at all?
Correct.
Okay, all right, that answers my questions, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question about the other basin on my.
Certainly.
Could we move up to the other basin?
The one to the east. There you
Yep.
go.
There we go. Thank you. I'm just have a question about the siting on that. Why it's why it couldn't have been located a little bit further from the wetland, possibly elongated to the northwest a little bit.
Yeah, I can take a crack at that. And the real reason that we did that is because the siting it where it is located on the plans is has sort of the least impact to the existing vegetation that's there. We did look around at sort of alternative sites. We actually looked, to the east of the wetland, basically on the other side of the wetland.
Yep.
We looked at expanding to the northwest, and the area where we are locating it now really has the minimum disturbance to the existing trees and other vegetation that's there. It's pretty sparsely vegetated in that spot. But if you move it sort of in any direction, you end up impacting more vegetation. So it ended up being the most. And we thought also the fact that I know this commission doesn't like to use the word degraded for wetlands, but the wetland that is adjacent to is a compromised wetland. It's got a lot of scour that's been taken out of it. It doesn't really have a lot of size to it or other wildlife habitat values. So we wanted to sort of get something that was going to sort of expand that that area, as a naturalized area and make it a little bit larger and more comprehensive. So it seemed to actually serve a little bit of a dual purpose there.
Do you think you're going to be contributing a little bit more to that wetland than it was getting before, or about the same?
I think it has, I believe it will contribute a little bit more.
Because you were getting mostly sheet flow, so it was more diffuse coming in there, correct?
We were getting sheet flow, but there's also a catch basin in the road that I think.
Oh, there was a picture. There was a sort of a head wall shown in one of the photos, correct?
There is.
Okay.
There is. Yes.
So it was getting some sort of direct contribution?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
No, that's okay.
No.
I don't have the file number.
We don't have
The
that.
file number came in today, and I think we have comments that are going to be, that the applicant is going to be responding to the file number. Is that correct?
Well, we've got the file number,
Yeah.
which is 105-0894. And we did address the comments that came in with the file number. I mean, if the commission were in a position to be comfortable to issue an order of conditions, with the condition that we, provide the answers to these comments, we'd be able to give you that information. One of the comments was, as Tori mentioned, just an administrative addition to the form. They just wanted to see the notation of the lot that's containing the proposed subdivision road be included on the form, which we did that. They had a question about the filing fee. They questioned whether or not we need an additional filing fee. We filed this under category 2J, which is sort of that catch-all other category. They wanted to know if it might be more appropriate to file it as a category 3 for a new driveway. And if that's what the commission would want, we'd be able to basically provide you with the difference in the fee as a condition. And then the third comment was they wanted to confirm that for the future subdivision roadway, which would be a separate project, that the stormwater standards would be fully met. And depending on who provides that project, again, that would be a different filing, and it would be required to meet the stormwater standards. So that would be taken care of. And they wanted to know whether or not, as was already asked earlier today, whether or not this detention basin was going to be providing any infiltration. We're not counting any infiltration in this basin, in any of the basins. We're listing them as detention basins, but the two that we're creating are in soils that do perk, so they are above the existing groundwater, so that there likely is going to be some infiltration in them. So we think that we would actually get some infiltration, but we haven't done. They're asking for soil testing data, and the idea was to get that soil testing data, when construction started, and provide those calculations. And again, we could easily have that as a condition if the commission wanted to issue this order of conditions tonight.
They do have a number of things that you would still have to provide. Is that correct?
Well, again, the soil testing and the calculations based on that soil testing wouldn't be until the beginning of construction, which obviously wouldn't happen until we receive an order in any case. So I mean, we would be asking for that as a condition in any case.
Why do you have to wait for the soil testing?
Well, our stormwater designer is sort of, he said that, the typical sequence would be to test the soil, prior to the start of construction.
Usually we get soil work done as prior to the issuance of the order of conditions. That way, if we find, it has happened multiple times over the years where soils end up not being what they were anticipated, and then it requires changes, amendments, change work orders, the whole 9 yards, if we know it's there.
Well, again, I can appreciate that. But again, these are not infiltration basins, they're just detention basins. So having soil data would really only show that we would be getting additional infiltration over and above what's already been designed. So it would just show sort of an improvement over the conditions that are already there.
So they're designed as impervious?
Correct.
Right. What's the pleasure of the commission? We're going to need to move on here.
You're really late.
We're late. Yep.
I mean, I tend to stick to our standard of we try not to jump the shark. Even if it's something trivial, we've stayed the course for every applicant. Same rules for everybody.
The only thing I could think of that we could do was something that occasionally, but not often, as Sean said, we don't usually do this, is the applicant would have to provide all the information. We're not going to get an order of conditions before the next meeting anyway to sign off on, correct, Anne?
Actually, I've been working on something. I've been working on a draft, hoping that we would be in a better position this evening to move forward, and anticipating that we would have received a DEP file number. And it's certainly not the applicant's fault. The EP has been very slow in issuing, so I really wasn't surprised that we hadn't received one. But I haven't received a copy of it. I haven't even looked at it yet. I know it came in probably later this afternoon. I don't know, after work. So Chris has been trying to get it from DEP. So, but I haven't seen it yet. So.
We can develop the order, have it prepared for signature at the next meeting.
Yeah, and even though the applicant has said they've addressed most of the issues that DEP raised, I think we should actually look at them before, just to see what, not knowing what they are and issuing would be, I think, be a mistake.
Right, I'd like to see the comments, but I do think this plan overall is going to improve the area. I'm excited for that.
Well, I sense a consensus here. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We will develop the final order of conditions and have it prepared for signature. And we'll continue to the evening of August 26th. The order will be prepared. We'll continue to 7 o'clock. And in the event that any information that we determine needs to be included, we'll let the applicant know so that we can address that in the order. Is that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Is that what the board's looking at?
Sounds great.
Yes.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of August 26th at 7 o'clock. And we'll have the order prepared and ready for signature.
So moved.
Cliff, it looks like Mr. Capilano is raising his hand.
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yep.
I'd just like to say that I thank you very much for your consideration this evening. I'd like to also point out that we have had from what I understand from contractor and from the commission, a highly successful project with everything that has gone on our site to date. Unfortunately, with the COVID situation and getting our plans wrapped up, there have been consequences that have extended this out. We're in a position right now to want to get this construction started as soon as we can. And we've got a situation where we are preparing to get started very soon if we can. And it's going to take us until about the middle of November, which is dangerously close to the end of the paving season. I think we all would love to get this thing done. It's a great expansion of the road, and we're going to start to push for signalization. So this is a very safe safe intersection. As you know, there's the Lobosur project is adjacent to our project with 149 townhouses across the street. Campanelli is working through through zoning right now, this week and next week, for approvals for 200 and I believe 40B units across Mechanic Street. You know, with all that said, and all the great things that have happened on this project to date, I guess my question is, would we be held up from actually going out there and starting to mobilize and starting to do some construction over the next couple weeks before we finish up on the 26th?
I think that Margot had suggested something a little earlier in the hearing process. Now, remember, we had a motion and a second. This is part of discussion, so I'll allow it. What Margot was talking about was, you know, work that's outside the buffer zone. I think that that's something that's not regulated, so that's permissible. What's the board thinking here?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't get in there. I was raising my hand a couple times, but I guess it wasn't working correctly, and then I finally got in. I was trying to make a comment earlier.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, again, I don't feel that having the order prepared for possible approval and signature at the next meeting won't delay this at all, not 1 minute.
No,
Okay.
that's kind of the standard that we follow,
Right.
regardless.
The time frame for doing it this way or doing it the other way is exactly the same.
Well, I think,
Correct, Mr. Chairman?
I think the applicant's suggesting that they're ready to mobilize shortly.
No, I get that, but we couldn't possibly have the order signed before the next meeting anyway.
That's my question is there a problem with us mobilizing and out there in the next, you know, in the next 7 days to start in preparation to get a jump on this by your next meeting, which is another 2 weeks. We are pressed for time at this point for a lot of unusual circumstances that we're all aware of.
Mr. Chair, would it be fair to say that the applicant could start to mobilize and do initial work in, like you said, in areas that are outside of jurisdiction, provided they don't affect any area of jurisdiction?
Well, I see a positive response from our vice chairman. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think we regulate areas that are outside, correct? So if he wanted to prepare and mobilize, just don't put any equipment, materials, or have any activity in the regulated areas and go to town on the rest of it.
Yes, just please be careful and know where the line is. That's all we ask. People frequently forget where the line is, unfortunately.
No, we'll be careful with that, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. The motion is to continue the hearing to the evening of August 26th at 7, at which time we'll have the order prepared and ready for signature. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, who seconded?
Who seconded? It's been so long ago.
I think Neil asked a question right then, but I don't know that I heard a second. I just want to make sure Amy's got it.
Second.
Ariane said she seconded it.
Okay, cool.
Yep, I'm
Okay.
good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Hi.
I think that's everybody. Okay.
Thank you very
By
much.
unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our
You're welcome.
pleasure.
Good night.
Good night.
We have, now we're a little bit behind schedule. I apologize to the applicants for Curtis Apartments and for Bellingham Shores, but we're going to proceed in order. We'll go to our next scheduled hearing. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public meetings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on a request for determination of applicability for the proposal to conduct overhead maintenance work on the existing C-129 transmission line, including replacing insulators at each structure. Temporary construction matting will be used to provide access and work paths for accessing structures located within bordering vegetated wetlands. Project is located on the NEP C129 transmission line from Maple Street to Stone Street, Bellingham. Travis Yando, BSC, Worcester, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Kelly Doherty, New England Power Company, Waltham. The meetings will be held at the Bellingham Municipal Center. It will be held via Zoom on Wednesday, August 12th at 7:45. We are 20 minutes in arrears. Apologies. And I saw Travis on here, and I see him right now. So
Yeah. Good evening.
There he is. All right.
Can you everybody hear me all right? I'm assuming so. Great. Thank you. So yes, Travis Yando from BSC Group representing New England Power for the C129 line. I am going to share something with you if James, if that's possible now. It looks like I can.
Yep, you should be good to go.
Great. So as I said, New England Power is proposing to do an insulator replacement project on the existing C129 line. In terms of location, exactly right. We're going to go from Maple Street to Stone Street in Bellingham. Here's kind of the USGS map as reference. In terms of project introduction and kind of scope of work, so within the proposed activities, the replaced structures will be on the existing structure or structural transmission line of the C129 line, install temporary construction matting for proposed work paths within wetland resource areas, and then also vegetation management activities within the 100-foot buffer zone. Here's some pictures of areas where they have done some work previously in other towns. To the left here, we kind of show like a small mowed pad within a buffer zone. The insulator replacement overhead work is shown up here. They're basically just going in, replacing these insulators. It takes about 2 to 4 hours per structure, and then they move on to the next. And then here's one that's also been completed. Very minimal ground disturbance in areas of buffer zone and upland work. The areas where the structures do exist in wetlands, that's where we propose the matting, which I can go into shortly here. So as I said, project activities are proposed within the following resource areas of Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Bellingham Protection Bylaw. So the resources are the bordering vegetated wetland, the 100-foot buffer zone. We have a small section of 200-foot riverfront area. There are some certified vernal pools identified in this portion of the transmission line, although we're not going to be, no work is proposed within or close proximity of these. All the access roads have been approved for a previous project that still has an open order conditions, and all those will be used for this project. So they're starting, they would like to start within a couple weeks here, so summer of 2020. Basically, they're going to go through, do some vegetation management in the 100-foot buffer zone areas, installing the construction mats for the access and work paths, complete the overhead construction, remove the matting, and then do any restoration or removal of any erosion controls that are needed. Just kind of explains, this is overhead maintenance of work which is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act. However, we are filing this RDA for the matting within the wetland resource areas per the town wetland protection bylaw. In terms of temporary impacts, throughout the project, we have approximately 12,885 square feet of temporary construction matting proposed within DVW. Construction matting, I had kind of briefly coordinated it with Ann already about installing these construction mats and removal with having on-site or on-scene environmental monitor, and then in-situ mitigation after mat removal. This work is under the ACO, and per the ACO through DEP, we will be monitoring the restoration and vegetation work, or the vegetation regrowth after the matting is removed. And then some best management practices, sediment and erosion controls, stabilization, construction accesses, and work paths. Any refueling and maintenance will be conducted outside any resource areas. Mowing and invasive species management, making sure that invasive species are not spreading, and then also the construction matting. So just in conclusion, we have very minimal disturbance anticipated for this project. All the access routes are going to be maximizing any upland access routes in the existing ones. The use of BMPs, and then again, this does qualify as just an overhead maintenance project. No ground disturbance work for this work. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can also go through the plans if that would help.
Real quick, what time of year were you proposing to do this work?
So it's going to be summer of this summer. So it's probably going to be as soon as we have the RDA, the negative determination. If that goes through, then within probably the next couple weeks.
That's high summer. I don't suppose there's no way we could delay a little bit until such time as we didn't have full leaf out.
It's dry though.
It's dry.
Yeah, it is dry, and I know for some of this work, they will need outages, and so that will also kind of determine schedule a little bit as well.
Well, it's not like we need power at this time of year.
I mean, summer of 2020, you realize summer's almost over, right?
Yeah, so like I said,
Okay.
it's gonna be within a couple weeks.
Seems kind of last minute.
Well, I guess some work has taken place. I guess the question, I mean, it's a rhetorical question, but you know, when you're replacing structures, wouldn't you be doing the maintenance to the insulators at the same time? Just seems a little duplicitous. We have
Different union.
Oh, okay.
I had asked the same question of Travers, and you know, I think you actually have the answer quite right there, Neil. There's so many different departments that they're just not coordinating these things as efficiently as they can, which is very unfortunate, because then they end up going back and, you know, going through the same processes over and over again to do additional work.
Any other questions? Comments? Ian, anything?
Nope.
All right. Then I will entertain a motion to close the meeting and issue a negative determination with conditions.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that everybody?
I heard 2,
Aye.
3.
Aye, if you didn't hear me.
Oh, all right. That's 4. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, on a vote of 4 to 1. Neil opposed. We will issue the negative determination with conditions. Okay, we'll move on.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you,
Thank
Travis.
you. Take care.
All right. Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearing in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposed development of a Chapter 40B project consisting of 5 4-story residential buildings, clubhouse, 9 carports, utilities, landscaping, associated amenities, and stormwater management system located at Assessor's Map 51 at 161, 163, and 167 Mechanic Street, Bellingham. The project proposes 39,180 square feet of land disturbance within the 100-foot buffer zone and 720 square feet of disturbance in the 25-foot no disturbance zone associated with the bank of Curtis Pond. Jesse Johnson, Bowler Engineering, Southborough, has submitted the filing on behalf of Russell Dion, Campanelli, 1 Campanelli Drive, Braintree. The hearing will be held at the Bellingham Municipal Center Arcane Meeting Room. Be held at Zoom on Wednesday, August 12th at 8:05. We are 10 minutes in rear. Apologies.
Okay, how you doing, everybody? Jesse Johnson, Bowler Engineering, here representing the applicant Campanelli tonight for notice of intent filing for 161 through 167 Mechanic Street. And I will share my screen if I'm ready, Jim.
Yeah, you should be all set.
Okay.
Okay, we are.
Jesse, you muted yourself.
You're on mute. Can't hear you.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. So this is across the street, and I want to give you an idea of, I'm sure everybody's driven by it. This kind of give you a bird's eye view of the condition of the site, and Curtis Pond being right here. You have an existing vegetated buffer that coincidentally follows along the 25-foot local no disturb line almost perfectly along through here. You do have an existing structure that falls within the 50-foot buffer zone and also the 100-foot, and you have a lot of this area already degraded and void of any type of valuable vegetation. Right now, the current drainage pattern and area that drains into Curtis Pond probably is about right here for a ridge line that heads that way. We're going to be changing that, obviously, and going to something that looks a little bit different. I'll give you an overview of the project, give you an idea of what we're trying to do here for our site. So as it was mentioned, it's a 40B project. We're going to have 5 buildings. We're going to have parking and access throughout the site. We have the buildings along the perimeter, if you will, and some parking structures also along the perimeter. Doing that to try to keep an open green space in the middle of the site that would allow us to really not put a lot of impervious surface on the site and really improve the site from what it is now. We are controlled by where we can have our access in. As part of that VHB project and the one across the street, it's already been determined where that traffic signal is going to be, and their entrance comes right across here. So we're going to basically go right directly across from that. And what we did.
Jesse, are you showing a plan? Because we're not seeing a plan yet. We're only seeing the aerial.
We've got the ortho photography.
And yeah, so we're missing your whole thing.
Actually, if you could lay your plan over the ortho photography, it'd be pretty awesome.
Sorry about that.
All right, that's okay. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for jumping in, Jim. I appreciate that.
I didn't want to hear you twice.
Ouch.
Point for Jim.
Boy, I like Jim. He tells it how it is.
That's it.
All right, let me go back to the Zoom. So you're still looking at this. Do I?
You still have the,
We have the
Ortho.
orthophotography.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how I would pick another PDF. I apologize for that. If I gotta select another one on my screen.
Is it open already on your screen?
It is, yeah. That's why I just went in and tried to select
Huh.
it.
Well, you might need to unshare and then try open it back up, share again. It'll give you a full array perhaps.
All right, why don't I do that? That's why my wife calls me Mr. Pencil. I'm not good with this type of stuff here. I didn't get a cell phone until about 5 years ago. All right, I'm gonna do this again. Sure. Why don't we do, all right, yeah, that'll work better. How's that?
oh,
Much better.
much better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. So we are across the street coming in. I've got a hard turn for our site to come in because we are sensitive to the wetland resource area with Curtis Pond here on the side. So as part of our design, we had to do a very dramatic turn, but still staying with standard design guidelines to come into the site and minimize our disturbance, even within prior disturbed areas, to try to really mitigate that. But then we do come back towards the 100-foot buffer in this area where we have some parking, covered parking garages, and some parking spaces right here as well. We are going to be modifying this slightly to let you know. So we did go through a ZBA hearing, actually 2 of them, and had several meetings with abutters where there was concern about how close we were in proximity to them. It's going to require us to push this covered parking down a little bit and get rid of these 3 parking spaces. So that will push us into the buffer a little bit more with that covered parking. However, we're basically swapping out impervious area for parking with a covered structure, which is better from a stormwater control standpoint. So I'm gonna do this the way we just did it last time. And I wanna go back to the resource area again and really highlight what we're doing here. This pink shows the limit of work, and we're basically following along that vegetated area and maintaining the existed forested habitat. Curtis Pond was reviewed as if it had a vernal pool designation. It was flagged by us, and it was flagged as a potential vernal pool, and we were working on this project back in early March. And when we submitted for MIPA, we had an investigation done by Goddard Consulting on 4/12 for the vernal pool, and submitted the results of that as part of our MIPA filing to DEP. They reviewed it, and their only comment back was go out and have another investigation done later in the season just to confirm that, which we had done. So on 6/13, the vernal pool was investigated again by Goddard Consulting. They did not find it to be jurisdictional under the state guidelines, but they did find it to be jurisdictional under your local guidelines. They found evidence of spring peepers, fingernail clams, snails, and dragonfly larvae. So it does get classified under your local, but not state. And I believe BSC confirmed that as well. What we did want to make sure that we highlighted, it was stated by both that existing habitat, forested habitat, was valuable, especially for the spring peepers, to maintain it as much as possible. So that's where we held the limit of work. We're not going beyond that. We do have to go into the 25-foot buffer slightly near the entrance for that access in. However, that is not an existing forested area. It's just in an existing disturbed area that happens to be within the 25-foot no disturb. And then we'll certainly restore that back. So I did want to just show you that again. And then I think it's worth showing you a big component that we worked hard on the stormwater design. This has got a lot of colors to it, but what I want to show you is if you can follow the pink outline, this is the subcatchment area, P4.0. This is the area that contributes towards Curtis Pond. Everything else, we were careful to design the grading and the drainage in such a way that everything is now traveling away from Curtis Pond. So all the impervious surface that's within the 100-foot buffer zone is actually directed away from Curtis Pond and goes into our stormwater mitigation that is easterly away from that. So the only subcatchment contributing to Curtis Pond after the project will be a restored area that will have vegetation throughout. We'll have the existing forested area and then a restored area up in this region. So we think that was important just to give you an idea of the improvement that we're going to make the stormwater flow towards Curtis Pond. And then I'll just finish up with showing you the design plans in that area. So this gives you a little bit more detail on the grading and drainage. So you can see the flow arrows again here, directing stormwater away from the resource area. And then this dash line through this region is basically saying that the limit of work is going to follow the existing tree line. The grading can be upgrading of that, but we have the limit of work going at least to that so that we can restore it and get rid of some of that basically scrub brush that's there now. We are proposing 15 trees within the buffer zone, a mix of oaks and ornamentals. And we do have obviously revegetation that's going to be going on, especially up in this region, all through here, that's going to be untouched. And that's most of the highlights of it. I do want to point out, we do have a small area that is impervious right here within the 0 to 50 foot. It's about 70 square feet, 75 square feet, but it's covered roof area that's directed away. And the existing impervious area within the 50-foot buffer is approximately 700 square feet. So a significant improvement in that regard as well. And I can put up anything else you guys might want to review that you've seen that I've shown you so far.
So the existing structures are going to be removed. I think what we need to do is we need to take a walk. I'd like the commission to see this. We'll pay special attention to the break point in the edge of the forested area. I'd like to also point out that in the BSC peer review, they noted that with the presence of the facultative species that were discovered in their site inspection, they felt that it might be certifiable if Curtis Pond dries up. Now, I've witnessed Curtis Pond dry up numerous times over the year. What we normally do, just so that we can highlight resource areas, is that we request applicants, if it's appropriate, to go through the certification process for us. Is it something you might be willing to do? It's not going to affect your project because, as you probably are aware, under state certification, there is no extended buffer zone. It's just to the edge of the resource area, but we like to have accurate mapping of those resource areas in our town.
So when you say certification, you mean as far certification for your local bylaw that it classifies under a vernal pool?
No, that determination's already been made by yourselves and by our peer reviewer.
Right.
What I'm saying is what we like to do is we like to have the state certification so that we can highlight the fact that these resource areas are numerous in town. It helps to serve subsequent applicants to be aware of the fact that we are aware of them and that they are numerous. So we always request, when there's a possibility to certify into the state guidelines, that the applicant would do that for us.
I would have to ask the applicant if they would be amenable to that. I would just ask if BSC and the state has said it doesn't classify, you guys still request that it be classified?
Well, what BSC is saying is that with especially two noted facultative amphibian species, gray tree frog and spring peeper, if the pond dries up, it's certifiable under state standards.
Okay, good.
Dries up.
if it dries up. Now, I don't know if it's going to dry up this year. An interesting thing is that Ann and I pay a lot of attention to groundwater, and we have a small pond on our property that functions as a vernal pool, and it has dried up, but we had an enormous amount of rain this spring, especially in March and April, so the groundwater was elevated, and our pond has not dried up. We've seen Curtis Pond dry up. It's close right now, but it's not dried up. So we're asking if it dries up, if you would go through that certification process.
Well, it sounds like we'll certainly have a second hearing. If you would allow me to ask the applicant and give you an answer at the next one, I'll certainly ask them.
You know, it's not going to affect your project in any way, shape, or form. It's providing a service to the commission.
Sure. Okay. I'll let them know. Thank you.
All right. So that being said, when can we get out there and take a peek at this?
I would say anytime. It's up to you guys. We'll work around your schedule.
We've had mixed results with the afternoon site walks. You want to try that again? What we're trying to do is encourage commissioners to get out in the field again.
Okay.
So what works for you guys?
Any day but Monday for me.
I can walk there from work, so anytime during the week is good for me.
That's right, Sean.
I'm generally available, but things come up from time to time, but generally I'm pretty available.
So what is a good time if we did it on a weekday?
4:30 or 5?
Seriously?
Agreed.
That's good.
4:30 works better for us. But if it's going to preclude someone from attending, we don't want to do that either.
As long as we can avoid a Monday, I'm good with any of those times.
Okay.
Monday it is then.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Well, you know where you stand, man.
Why don't we try Tuesday? What's that date?
Tuesday would be the 18th.
Would you be available?
I'm good Tuesday.
Jesse,
Yep.
Will you be leading this walk?
I will certainly be there. Yeah, and it looks like I have availability on Tuesday as well.
Excellent.
Are you kidding me? Everybody can make it.
I know. I think we threaded that needle. That's not easy.
So, okay. I'm going to ask Jim where they are with the zoning board on this, because our agendas are getting jammed.
The zoning board's moving right along, actually. So we're waiting on the peer review from BSC, which we received yesterday or today. So I know I forwarded that along to Jesse. So I'm expecting some a response to comments probably early next week.
We're shooting for Monday, Jim.
Okay. Yep. And so the zoning board's had 2 hearings already. They're hosting another hearing on this Thursday. And then very likely another one the first Thursday of the month in September. And we would see where we stand at that point. But we're moving through the issues quite rapidly. I would say the applicant's been fairly responsive during this time, and we were appreciative of them doing we did a site walk a couple weeks ago, and we had about 20 or so neighbors from the Maplebrook group join us. So it was a good conversation, and we've actually gotten a lot of responses already from those neighbors about increased buffer, and that's why I think Jesse touched on moving the carport some. That's actually a direct response from some of the neighbors to try and replant there. So we're actually moving along quite well, and obviously I can't say how many more meetings it would take, but I'm expecting at least these next 2 here.
Okay, well, that helps us with our scheduling. We've got 11 hearings coming up at our next meeting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this to the evening of September 9th at 7 o'clock. The venue to be determined. We have to see if it's something that we'll be able to do in person or if we're still going to continue with the Zoom meeting. I don't have a problem conducting this hearing in Zoom. We have a couple upcoming applications that I don't feel it's appropriate to conduct via Zoom. This is not one of them. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of September 9th at 7 and to conduct a site inspection Tuesday, the 18th at 4:30 on site.
So moved.
Second.
That was Ariane. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, by unanimous vote. And Jesse, if you would just find out if, you know, if you look at the letter that was written by the peer reviewer for BSC,
Sure.
that is a potential certification process. If you could just check with us, we'd really appreciate it.
Not a problem. We'll do that.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thanks for having patience with me. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for your forbearance because we're a little behind schedule, but we're getting back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Jesse. Thanks, Matt. Good to see you.
Good night.
Okay. I see Mark and Sean are here. Just give me a second to put away some of this paperwork that's burying me. This is for.
Do you have the hearing?
Yes, I have.
You got it?
No, but I'm going to dispense with the reading
it's
of the
right here.
advertisement.
Here we go. These are the new things.
Okay. Okay. This is an application where we've had several hearings open in the past. That being the case, we have established a track record on this project, so I'm going to dispense with the reading of the full advertisement and going to open the continuation for the roadway stormwater management system, filling of isolated vegetative wetlands for the subdivision and lot construction at Bellingham Shores.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Sean Malone, Consulting Group for the applicant. And as you already know, Mark Arnold is also with us tonight. If it works for you, Mr. Chair, I was planning on just very briefly going over our recent submission and some of the things that we had talked about last meeting, and then turn it back to the commission for any additional questions and comments and take it from there.
Thank you. That will work.
Okay, great. If I could, is it all right if I share my screen? I'll put a plan up here.
Please do. Jim, would you accommodate?
You're all set.
Thank you.
Okay.
I feel like Vanna White.
I'd like to buy a vowel.
What you do on your own time, Jim?
So does everybody see this, the overall wetlands impact plan showing?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay, great. So as just to recap a little bit what we talked about last meeting, we had gone through and revised our roadway layout to condense the site, pull the lots around the perimeter further away from the wetlands, so we'd have no wetlands impacts or the buffer impacts, excuse me, associated with the individual lots. Since then, we've now gone through and revised our stormwater system, our sewer and water system, the roadway profiles to accommodate all that work, and with that also updated our stormwater analysis. We also talked about this large basin, Basin 1, we're calling it, in kind of the center of the site. We were asked to take a look at that to see what we could do about maybe reducing the size of it, reducing the amount of grading associated with it, to try to improve that. So what I'm showing on this plan is the updated impact plan. And as you can see, we have kind of brought in that Basin 1, made it tighter and a little bit longer, more towards the east. And in doing so, we're able to lessen the amount of buffer impacts. Previously, we actually had grading into the 50-foot buffer some portions of this, so we've been able to eliminate that, and we just have a little bit of perimeter grading just on the bottoms of the slopes down here. We've also been able to reduce the amount of fill going down into this sloped area into the wetlands by bringing the basin, as I was saying, more towards the east here. So we're utilizing this flattish area as much as we can. The revised stormwater calcs show that this still works, and we're still decreasing the rate and volume of runoff from our site. We've also, as part of this, did a mounting analysis for this basin and Basin 2 as well. And what that analysis showed is that the groundwater mound associated with the infiltration of these basins would be limited to within the perimeter of the basin. We wouldn't be extending a mound beyond this area that would adversely affect any abutters or anything like that. And just to note, the amount of water that's impounded in these basins depth-wise is relatively low. The outflow for Basin 1 is only about, or is 2 feet off the basin bottom. So there's only 2 feet of impounded water there before you overflow. And likewise in Basin 2, it's only a foot. So there's not a lot of impounded water there. We also made some note changes regarding the open space and monumentation that we had talked about. We've added this note or clarified this note to indicate that we'll have monuments at the lot corners as well as the midpoint on any lots that are adjacent to the open space, and at the midpoint, but not more than 100 feet apart. So if it's more than a 200-foot long rear line, we'd have 2 monuments there. I also received from Jim the plan for the municipal basin behind Douglas Drive. So we've updated our open space plan to, one, account for the adjusted grading and lot changes associated with the Basin 1 changes, but also indicate this area here that would accommodate the basin that the town is planning on putting in as a separate deeded parcel, which would be deeded to the town, versus the remaining open space has been noted to be deeded to the Conservation Commission. I think that pretty much sums up everything that we had talked about with respect to the Conservation Commission's questions. And at this point, I guess I'd turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Sean, just to add to that, we did also in the buffer zone plan account for the potential sidewalk along Cross Street. So you'll notice that those impacts are shown on the buffer zone impact plan, and the replication plan has been amended to account for replicating the area that would be impacted at the outlet of the stormwater that is along that's proposed sidewalk. So that's all been incorporated in the plans, and they've been updated to reflect those required replication numbers. And again, the sidewalk is something that the planning board is requesting that the applicant at least have laid out and prepared for, and the commission wanted us to make sure that we had those impacts evaluated, because although it may not be built at the same time as this project, it is probably going to be tied to this project in some form in the future.
Good. That's a suggestion, a strategy I think that we talked about in the field, and it's appropriate. Good. Okay. So as always, I got a couple of notes here. I'd like to start with your mounding analysis.
Yes.
And I got it on an 11 by 17, and it was very difficult to read the numbers in the red. Do you have that, Sean? Do you have that mounding analysis available?
Yes, hang on one second.
Okay.
Let's get that.
There you go.
Here. Okay.
Yeah, I had a little trouble with the red. Now, I don't pretend to be an engineer, but what I have seen for mounding analysis in the past is that the vertical scale refers to separation between the basin bottom and groundwater, and the horizontal scale usually reflects time of concentration. And so I've never seen this kind of a calculation. Now, we did speak with our peer reviewer and asked that, that he explain it to me. Now, maybe you can do that. It's just a little unusual. You plug values in your input values, and they're explained, but I'm not sure exactly where you came from, where you got them from, and I don't want to get into the minutia of the engineering that's associated with it. But we did ask our peer reviewer to take a peek at that. But maybe if you could just explain, the vertical values versus the horizontal values, so we can see. Normally, what we're looking at is not so much the volumetric area, but rather the effect on groundwater that the recharge might have during a prolonged storm event.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay.
And let me look at this one. This might be a little easier to start with. So this is a spreadsheet published by the USGS. It's based on what's called the hand tush method. It's fairly standard in analysis in analyzing groundwater mounding. And as I said, it comes from the USGS. The input values, this first one here is the recharge rate, and that's simply the infiltration rate of the soils vertically. So with that, we used the same value that we used in our stormwater analysis, which was about 1 inch per hour. And in this model, it's converted to feet per day. The specific yield is a standard of the soil type based on the soils information we had in the basin. These are kind of loamy sands. So that's what we used here. And the horizontal conductivity, the K value, is kind of the dispersion horizontally of the water. So it goes down and then it goes out. And this value is a function of the vertical infiltration rate. And then these next two are just your size of the basin. So what this model does, it looks at the center of the basin, and we put in our inputs for how much or how wide it is from that center and how long it is from that center. So it's all based on the center of the basin. And then the T, the time, is the duration of the infiltration. And we had 1 day infiltration rate here, and that's based on the infiltration rate times the depth of the water, the 2 feet of water that we were talking about. And then the saturated thickness is your separation between your estimated seasonal high groundwater and your depth to bedrock. So that's how much room there is for kind of fluctuation and flow within that aquifer. So what this shows is the depth of the mound above your groundwater, and that's what the vertical scale is. So this is your
That's
your
in
depth
feet.
of the groundwater rise. This is your mound, and then this is the distance from the center of the basin. So what we're showing here for basin 2, once you get 100 feet, you're back down to normal groundwater elevation, and that 100 feet is within the footprint of the basin, the outside footprint of the basin. It doesn't extend beyond the property or affect abutting properties. Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, have you ever seen the calculation that I'm talking about with the standard, like bell curve with the, I mean,
I have it, well, only in the sense of like a hydrograph from a stormwater analysis, where you have the peak of a storm and then you come back down. That's a stormwater analysis. This is specific just to the groundwater. If there is one more of a bell curve for a mounting analysis, I actually haven't seen it. And if somebody wants to point me to it, I'd be glad to use another analysis.
no, that's why we're going to ask our peer review to take a look at this.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're looking at here is that the 5 feet, the 5 foot value, the HI, the thickness of the saturation zone is achieved 40 feet from the center of the storm in a one-day storm. Is that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So a typical storm event is model wise is a 24-hour duration. So that's kind of where the one-day thing comes from. What this is showing, so this red line is showing where we have a basin outflow. So at this point, your groundwater will get up to this level, or the water in the basin would get to this level, and then outflow. So when I was doing this, I actually analyzed the basin assuming no infiltration as well, and was able to see that we're still decreasing the rate and volume of runoff just by having that static volume there rather than a dynamic volume. So if it were to mound up this high and then start outflowing, we're still below our pre-development rates in volume and rate of runoff. And that's the way these basins were designed and modeled. And that's why, with this under the state standards, I think it can be arguable whether or not a mounting analysis is required for this basin, because it doesn't retain the whole 10-year storm. You have outflow from it, and that's kind of the standard in the stormwater standards. But all that aside, we did it, and I think we're still showing that we can handle this flow and won't be causing any problems.
And so with the reconfiguration of the basin, I believe the previous design was holding 3 feet of water. Is that correct?
Basin one was holding, I think it was 2.5 feet. So we've decreased the amount that we are withholding there.
Okay, and I noticed that you have centers to the berms around the basin now. If you would show that to the commission, there you go.
Yeah, so we've also added the clay core that we talked about. I think it was a recommendation from Frank at BSC at one of our hearings. So we've added a clay core in the center to prevent any kind of seepage and long-term degradation of the berm from that seepage. We've also dispersed the outlets. In talking to Mark, I believe this was something that may have been discussed in the field, or I'm not sure if we talked about it in ourselves, but so we have 3 or 4 separate outlets here. So we're not concentrating one big flow from the basin, and these are all separated by about 50 feet too, to disperse the flow going into this naturalized area before it gets down into the buffer and into the wetlands and stream.
Okay. I will comment that the applicant has done a lot to address the concerns that we brought up at our last hearing. Now, I haven't done a complete and thorough review, and I know that our peer reviewer, Frank, has been unable to do that. But I appreciate the work that you're doing. I have one more question, and it relates to the disposition of the open space. It's actually a comment and a question. The commission, thank you. There is an area of open space that I don't think the commission is going to be interested in accepting, and that's the area that's associated with the drainage for Lakeview Estates. That area has velocity mitigation structures on it. It has a large detention basin, and sewer line was relocated without permit. And so there's a restoration area there. A lot of things going on there that I don't think we would be interested in for open space. But the second comment is, I know that our administrator's been working diligently on several projects with conservation restrictions. Especially, she's been working with Dan Wells, who's got a pretty good handle on the whole process. One of the things that the commission needs to determine, and I mentioned that at our last meeting, is it's a simplified process. We don't need to go to town meeting. We can accept the land, vote to accept the land, have the selectmen sign off on it. It's not an unwieldy process at all. But down the road, it presents the potential for an enforcement problem for us if we discover that, you know, property owners have created an ATV park, or hunters are overutilizing the resource because there aren't a lot of places around and they can just walk out in the backyard, put up a tree stand. In our review processes, I think we saw at least 3 tree stands out there, so we know that it's being used. And the commission policy is no hunting. So I'm a little concerned about our ability to protect the area with proximity of Scott Hill Acres, Lakeview Estates, and the shores surrounding, the dense population surrounding this area of open space. So I think it's something, even though I suggested it, the commission's going to have to weigh this one carefully, Sean. And it's just kind of a point of information. We have no staff to assist us with enforcement of property that we own. And occasionally we're finding people who are building structures on our land or creating trails on our land, and we find them with orthophotography and it's already too late. So we'll have to provide a little bit more input to you on that.
Yes, so yes, please do. And then, you know, whatever the commission desires there, we can go another route with that particular area with just a CR or something like that. We can talk to Jim about whatever thoughts he may have for the town. So we'll find another home for it. But yeah, please let us know on that.
We surely will, and I know that Ian will speak with Jim about it, and we'll go over our concerns and find out what the best mechanism for, long-term protection. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, anybody else? Any other questions or comments? Anybody have anything they want to add?
Yeah. Just one thing, Mr. Chair. So, what we feel and where we think we are, where we'd like to be is, I think we've heard all the commission's thoughts and comments. We've responded to them. We understand we're waiting for BSC for their engineering review, and know that you can't act until you get confirmation from them. But assuming everything is good on that, we want to just be sure that there's no other issues or questions from this commission, with the hope that once BSC comes back with an okay, that we can wrap this up and issue an order.
I think
that's the goal.
That's absolutely the goal. I will say that I know the planning board had a couple of cuts at this. I know that our peer reviewer had taken some looks at it, but once we commenced our review, I think we came up with some things that maybe had not been anticipated by the design team or by the peer reviewer, and you have addressed the concerns. So
I just wanted to mention that, and Sean, you already know this, and Jim's participating this evening, that we do work closely with the planning board through this process. They got a little bit ahead of us on this one, but as we're getting to the final comments, I think, once the planning board feels like they're comfortable, we can open up dialogue with them and figure out, what the end point is going to be in this hearing process. We do anticipate it's going to be soon, because you have answered a lot of our questions. But again, we want to make sure that the planning board is on the same page with us, so that we don't close a hearing and have some changes that could be made with their continuing process.
we need to have the same plan set.
Yes, and we are meeting with the planning board tomorrow, and they did receive the same exact submission that you received. So everybody's up to date. So I appreciate that comment, Dan, and we'll have this discussion with the planning board tomorrow as well.
So I'm sure, Jim, I'm sure you don't have any idea where you're going to be going with your.
It doesn't matter.
No. So again, we have 11 hearings on for the 26th. And we know some of those are going to be continued to the 9th. And this is, so we can go to 7:30. And what we'll do is we can start roughing out the permit. So it's not like we'll be starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if something comes up, I don't anticipate anything coming up from us. But if something comes up, a minor revision due to project review, or something that comes up from the planning board, then we can address that in the order. So I'll extend a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of September 9th at 7:30. And like I said, Ann and I will start working on laying out the permit.
And we'll try to figure out, we'll try to be figuring out the disposition of that open space. What would be the best, most efficient mechanism?
And we'll let you know as soon as possible.
And if you,
Okay.
All right, good.
All right.
So do I have a motion?
Second.
Hello.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think somebody's cat needs to go out.
I think that's Mike, actually.
Mike needs to go out. All right.
Mike, let yourself out, will you?
All right, again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right. Brian? Okay. Well, okay, opposed? All right, I'm going to say that Mike is in favor. So that's a unanimous vote. And so thank you.
We
Ian
can't,
will-
can't hear you, Mike.
That was awesome.
What's wrong with him?
Yeah, Mike, I keep muting you because you're not coming through good. We're coming through well.
He's got to stop eating helium.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll see you in the 9th. Thank you.
You got it. Okay, we have another hearing.
You hanging in there, Cliff?
No air conditioning, it's hot. All right.
It's all good.
Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the notice of intent for the replacement of a failed septic system, including a new tank and D-box located within a 100-foot buffer zone for bordering vegetated wetlands at Assessors Map 90, Parcel 49A, 60 Pickering Avenue. Paul D. Simone, Colonial Engineering, All Street Medway submitted the filing on behalf of Mary and Daniel Moriarty, Connie Street, Taunton. The meetings will be held via Zoom on Wednesday, August 12th at 8:55. We're running a little late.
Hi, Karen.
So I'm here to represent the owners of 60 Pickering. I think Paul DeSimone is on the line also. Simply stated in the legal ad, we would like to replace the failed septic system. So the lot is 21,000 plus square feet. The system has been designed outside the 25-foot. We're showing erosion control at or further out than the 25-foot. There were test pits done. The engineer has determined that this is the best location for the system. There's really nowhere else to put it on the site. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but we really don't have any alternative here.
Okay, by any chance, do you have a plan, Karen?
Oh, I do. You know what, I'm gonna make an attempt to share my plan because I haven't done this as non-host, so I'm gonna try that now.
Gary just made you host, so you should be able to share now.
Ian and I have a plan, and we've been out on the site while Karen's calling that up. Ian and I verified the wetland delineation, and it's accurate.
Thank you. Oops, that wasn't right. Oh. That's the agenda. Okay, let me try this again.
Take your time. We've been doing it all night.
I apologize. My first time. Hey, Paul, I'm here. I got it. So you're muted. Unmute yourself. Do you know? Can you tell me how to unmute from the phone? All right, let me call you back, Paul. Sorry, that was Paul D. Simone, the engineer on the line.
Yep, it looks like he's on.
He's
the-
having trouble unmuting himself.
Paul's
Paul?
he's probably muted on the on his own computer
I
or on
can't
the
seem to
keyboard.
get the plan up. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
All right, well,
The plan was sent out to our commission members.
Oh my God.
everyone had an opportunity to look at it, but sometimes when doing the review, it's helpful
It's helpful just to
for
look at
everybody
it.
to see it. So just to run it down, applicant's representative said that they have really nowhere else to put this. She really wasn't kidding. It's a very tight spot. Shows 2 existing cesspools. So the soils are going to be removed. New trench put in, new chamber, tank, you know.
So there was one area along right at the front of Pickering. This particular house is at the corner of Pleasant and Pickering. And the wetland line does go down towards Pickering. So we did find that there was some trash and debris, wood boxes.
It looks like some pretty recent stuff, too.
That was just dumped down in the wetland. It looked like it was probably in the 20-foot, 5-foot no disturb.
Or maybe even in the resource area. It's pretty close.
Yeah, near wetland flag
8,
number 8.
8, 9.
So we'll include that for cleanup in the order, just so that you know.
So
You
if you
guys
want to
hear
make that a
me now?
condition, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, we can hear you, Paul.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
We heard that.
Well, I can answer any questions on the placing of the system, soil conditions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there was a lot of choice.
There is one comment I wanted to make, Paul. I didn't notice any specific type of erosion control on this particular plan, so I just put state silt fence. Usually,
Yeah, whatever you put in the order is good for us.
Okay.
I tried to move it up the hill further,
Yeah.
but the problem is the property line is coming in closer, and you got to maintain the 20 feet from the foundation,
Very close.
and you got to maintain at least 10 feet from the property line.
Mm.
And because this is stepped, I stepped them down the hill, and we have to use a vent. If you can picture that the bottom trench, the end, I have to come straight up about 3 feet to make the vent line go to connect to the other 2 pipes. So if I move it up the hill further, I need more fill because I would need to bring the pipe up another foot or so.
Mm.
I don't know if you can picture that.
Well, after being out on the site, I think we have a handle on that.
Yeah, there were 2 cesspools shown there that they both failed. The material was actually really good. It was all sand.
Wow, that's good. Mm.
For the commission's benefit, I mean, it's a relatively straightforward septic repair. They have, what is it, one upgrade, one local upgrade?
I apologize. I got bumped out of the meeting. I just got back on.
That's all right.
What was the question? My computer, this is my 3rd meeting tonight. My computer's, it's
getting tired.
Tired. So what was your question?
Well, no, I was looking at for local upgrades that are required. So you got a setback from the wetlands at 42 feet, but that's for the tank.
Okay.
No, actually, the leaching trench from wetland flag.
That's from the edge of the trench.
Okay, right, got it now. Okay.
That's not a 40-inch pipe, is it?
You know, when you're looking at a PDF and it will not enlarge, and you see a 40 and a mark next to it, you think, how can it be a 40-inch pipe?
Yeah, no, those are 4-inch pipe with 3-foot trenches. Looking at that same corner where the system is the closest to the wetlands.
Yep.
You notice the 2 heavy lines on the grading there?
Yeah.
onto a 92 and 90. So that's all the material that we need to bring in because of the way I stepped these down. We don't have any filling over this. So the trenches are in the ground and we need very little material to bring in. So we kept that out of the 25-foot no disturb. But again, I couldn't go up the hill any higher because of the vent pipe.
Yeah, you've got a waiver for your cover over the trenches.
Yeah, I had to keep them in the ground. It was not easy.
Yeah, it's tight, no question.
Plus, we have 3 different pipes coming out of the structure. We know of the 2 in the back because we found those. The one in the front, we're not sure where it is, so they're going to have to actually look for that pipe by digging along the foundation.
Wow.
It's on, all 3 pipes are under the slab.
Yeah, so there's no cellar, it's under the slab.
Yeah, well, it's full basement, but they went under the floor. There are bathrooms in the basement.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's relatively, I mean, it's not straightforward, but it is a septic repair. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue and sign the issue and issue the order of conditions.
So moved.
Second. Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's a unanimous vote. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great,
very
thank
much.
you. Thank you, Ian, again for all your help.
You bet. Take care.
Take care.
Take care.
Take care, you guys.
Okay.
Bye, Paul.
Good hearing you, Paul.
Bye, Paul.
Paul? Oh, Paul?
You guys,
Hey, Paul?
yeah,
Did you get out to Box Pond Drive?
yeah, it's still up.
Oh, okay.
Still
Okay.
up. I don't know why, but it's still up.
Okay.
Oh, and that lady paid her taxes today too.
All right, well,
Fill out the form.
yep. Okay, thank you.
Right, so when's your next meeting? Like 2 weeks?
No,
Yeah.
6 months.
Our next meeting's the 26th, but we didn't get the filing in time.
Okay, let me know when I get on for the next one on that one.
I
It'll
will do
probably be
that.
the night.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
9th of
care.
November. 9th of November.
Okay, we talked about the rain gardens. We have a boatload of stuff to sign. And I know Jim is tired. He does this 5 nights a week. I don't know how he does it. We're
He
gonna
doesn't have a life.
We have 2 sets of minutes out there. Has everyone had an opportunity to peruse the minutes of the 24th and the 8th?
Yes.
And what do we have?
Yes.
Somebody let the cat back.
We misspelled my name.
Again.
On July 8th, page 6, about middle point. Neil Stanley made the motion and Sean Mead.
Oh, I
the
did
second.
it. Darn it. I was doing it to just trick you, you know.
Right.
It was a trick.
It was
Always,
in there to make sure people are reading it.
Right?
It's like Where's Waldo at the minute.
That's it, exactly. Got it covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
The 24th minutes, the Boy Scouts, first one,
Yep.
7th line. The nesting boxes are falling down in bass shape. Really bass. And I know that was another test by Ann, so I caught that one.
What are you talking about?
Sorry, by Amy. Amy, that was your testing us, right?
100%. I got it. I see what you mean.
Falling down, bass shape.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep. That's all I saw.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote. Do you want some people to meet tomorrow?
Yeah, so, yeah, we were just trying to figure that out.
We're trying to figure out, we have a boatload of permits here and they're backing up. The work has been completed. It'd be really nice if a couple people could go down and meet with Ian tomorrow to give us signatures. And
But we are meeting
but
on
we are meeting
Tuesday,
on Tuesday.
and I don't know.
Please attend.
I don't know who would be able to come. We need at least four signatures.
And I can make it there tomorrow.
I can come tomorrow.
I can come by tomorrow.
Awesome.
All right.
What time?
Well, Sean suggested 11. Is that okay?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sure. I can always bike down.
All right.
That's awesome.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you so
That
much.
gets us a leg up on doing some of this.
Is it going to be sunny?
Yes.
It's going to be cloudy.
Only in Philadelphia. It's always sunny.
It's not going to be raining, so you can take the Z.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I missed one thing real quick. The Hartford Ave, 318 Hartford with the solar panels, what was decided about that?
They withdrew.
Ah, okay.
They withdrew the applicant without prejudice.
They had
Retreated in
sent-
the face of common sense. Okay, good.
Well, they had sent another request for continuation this morning. And so we had a little discussion with town council and came up, I ended up emailing them suggesting that they just withdraw without prejudice because they weren't ready. We've been waiting since February. And he responded and he said, well, I can't make that decision. That's up to my client. So I didn't do anything. And then later he responded and he said that they were withdrawing without prejudice. So that was good.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Yep.
I think that's it.
All right,
Motion
see you
to
tomorrow at
adjourn.
11.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. First.
All done. Jim, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks,
See you all
Amy.
around. Stay safe.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, Amy.
You too.